Most residents of District 4 have seen properties that are in major disrepair, have trash on the lawn, or have vehicles parked on the grass. These things constitute violations to city code. Research has shown that code complaints, including criminal offenses, often go unreported, resulting in repeat offenders and problem properties. A possible solution is to get property owners to register with the city and have their properties inspected. What is your position on implementation of rental registration, and what does an effective rental registration program look like to you?
One thing, I guess not. It is now. The one thing that I do support is, I guess I just talk too much, or just didn't like me. One thing I do support is more inspectors for code compliance, which is kind of against me because it's for smaller government, to streamline government. But I'm also looking at recommending that the city of Austin train all their employees that travel the city to be on the lookout for code violations. And we need more eyes out there to see the violation. The question is, do I recommend rental property to be listed for inspections? The answer is yes. I think everyone who rents a house needs to make sure that that house, I'm for health and safety, so I think every landlord should have their property subject to inspection. So where am I? 30 seconds, thank you. But my big thing is, we need more code inspectors. We need to have more teeth behind our code inspectors, and we need to basically train the water department, the sewer department, the waste, everybody that's driving down the street to be on the lookout and report violations that they see, so the city can take care of it.
I feel we need to have stricter enforcement within registration for the city. I helped out an individual who basically lives in our district, who basically asked for help within the city of Austin. Her name is Kayla Lucky. She left out of town. She got back. Her apartment was broken into. Her AC wasn't working. As a result, she has a single mom with 3 kids, and in the closet, she found mold. Her AC broke and it was leaking within the walls. She smelled an odor and couldn't realize what it was. She asked the management to come in and check the apartment. The management looked at it and said, "Oh, it's nothing big. We'll paint over it. We'll fix it. Don't worry about it." She has 3 kids, one that's 6, one that's 8, and one that's 12. When she went to the closet, she found mold on her clothes. She found mold she picked up the carpet, under the carpet, everywhere. They were trying to pass her one, basically by just painting over it. She sent out an email to all the city of Austin and sent me an email. Within 24 hours, I helped her sit down talking to her and talking to city council and talking to Health Human Services and code enforcement. Within the following day, that property had code enforcement there and police to see what the problem was. As a result, she moved out of her apartment and went to another one while they fixed it. These are things that probably happen every single day, and we need to be aware of this and we need to fix this.
I think rental registration is a great program. The one that we have in place right now, unfortunately, is not set up to benefit us. The Director of Code Compliance said very proudly that they were not going to add any new staff to code compliance for rental registration. I've spoken to a member of the team that services our neighborhood, and they're working on cases from 2013. So I don't have a lot of faith in the ability for the team that is working on cases from last year to take on new rental registration cases. In addition to that, there's going to be a fee associated for the property owners, which are going to trickle that down to the renters. So my question is, where is that money going? It should be going to pay for more employees to help us. We need a lot of help with code enforcement and compliance in District 4, but we have not been given a plan that has the ability to do that. I really feel that the rental registration plan that we've been given is going to be more of a pacifier, so that when we as a community raise our hand and say, we're not being serviced here, we're still having problems, they can lean on it and say, well, we gave you rental registration, but we don't have more officers and we don't have any teeth. So we need to get a real plan in place that includes additional staff with the true ability to enforce this code.
So an effective rental registration program maintains the health, welfare, and safety of all the citizens here in District 4. That's why I would support a really strong rental registration. Kind of just to highlight some of the additional work that the Restore Lumber team has done, we have taken an initiative on one of the priorities to identify some of the properties. And I'm very thankful for those individuals that took this priority on, because they've gone through a lot of data and through systems that are unbelievable. And they've done really great work, and I'm very proud to have been a co-chair to help them through that process and help them identify those, they identified all those properties through the research that they did. But that's one of the initiatives that we've taken as far as the Restore Lumber. We also need to streamline the process, make sure that we have enough personnel out in the field, and that they can actually have a conversation with individuals. It does no good if an individual comes out, one of the officers comes out, and they can't have a conversation with the individual who's filing the complaint. There's a language barrier, so we want to make sure that we remove that barrier or that language barrier, and we create a sense of trust within the community that they can report something without there being a repercussion against them because they're the tenants.
So on the Restore Lumber team, I'm the leader of the Code Compliance Accountability Subcommittee. And thank you, Roberto, for giving us kudos on that. And we have done a lot of work researching what the major repeat offenders are in our community. And it's an interesting set of data. We did a public information request all the way back from last year through this year, through I think August. And we have offenders that have been worked on all the way through June, July, and August. And what's interesting, we found one apartment complex in the Rumberg area that is a repeat offender, and it fills the criteria for a repeat offender, and code compliance wasn't working on it. So we put a lot of community pressure. Our team met with code compliance, we met with APD, and we got that property on the repeat offender program. So I'll tell you what, community policing does work, and they know we're watching, the community's watching. You know, for the general rental registration program, I'm open to it. My only concern and fear is that, you know, when we were kids, when the good kids would get punished when the bad kids were doing something, it's kind of that. I'd like to have the rental registration program not punish the good players and let them do what they do best at running their business. But right now we do have the repeat offender program. Code needs a lot more support, legal support. They need an automated system to catch the repeat offenders and not have us as community residents going through piles of public information requests. Thank you.
Last year, I worked with several community groups to support a pilot targeted rental registration program for this area specifically that would target unsanitary and unlawfully out of compliance properties that pose a danger oftentimes to residents. And we brought forth testimony of many working folks who lived in those conditions, and 2 students went to elementary schools in the Lanier Vertical team. The council instead chose to pass a repeat offender program, which is a different type of rental registration program. Many of the folks that testified before the council spoke about why they would fear repeatedly making complaints to their landlords, especially in 4-plexes or 6-plexes, where your anonymity is not very well protected. So I'm committed to passing strong tenants' rights policies so that folks can utilize that repeat offender program, and if we don't see it successfully turn properties into more compliant ones, then I think we should bring targeted rental registration back onto the table. A successful program would also incorporate technology so that we know which properties eventually are going to disappear, because we know when they were built. We can Cities across the country, much larger cities, have started to use that technology to beef up their code compliance departments. And also, I'd like to briefly respond to the comment about me holding the homestead exemption for a ransom. I will not be doing that. I was simply stating that with the same $36 million, we can invest in our existing utility relief program to cover over 100,000 more families. And by splitting it up, $14 million to exemptions and $22 million to utility relief, we would provide more benefits to the median District 4 renter and homeowner.
I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach to this question and talk about work that I've done in the course of my nearly 2 decades in government. So any regulation that you build into, whether it's the city code or any code, is only as effective as the implementation. So work that I did at the Sunset Advisory Commission evaluating the effectiveness and efficiency of government looked at systems just like this. What I would tell you is the code compliance that we have in place is not effective. It doesn't have enough teeth, and we don't hold them accountable. The council has not held them accountable to the performance requirements that they put in place. And I would like to see us change that. Whether or not we have a rental registration, I think, is a separate question and want to be considered. But I think we don't even use the tools that we have in place now effectively. And I would like to see that. I've done that in my work in the legislature, evaluating the effectiveness of government programs. If you want to see the kind of work that Sunset's done, it's something I'd like to see replicated in the city. You can look at the top story on the front page of the Statesman today, where they called into task the Medicaid fraud unit. Ensuring that the tools that we have in place work effectively is critical to government working efficiently, and that your taxpayers, your tax dollars are going to their best and highest use. And that's the kind of system I'd like us to see put in place here in Austin.
Code compliance is important to the city, especially here in District 4, and it saddens me to see mindless neglect of the properties and the tenants unfairly being punished because they have to live in such conditions. Now, I have been promoting safe housing, maybe not code compliance directly, but safe housing for several years now. I started at a much higher level, the state, with the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs, about tenants' rights. Now, they don't monitor or control every property, but that's pretty widespread impact. And I was talking about tenants' rights, and I found out recently from an email I received that the tenants' rights that I made noise about in a meeting that they didn't like is now being incorporated into their website as part of the fair housing section. So that's a pretty huge impact. We need to see that at a local level from the community. I told the Austin Code Director, Carl Smart, in a recent meeting that many people are not aware that it's complaint driven. They need to do outreach to make everybody aware of that, and likewise, they need to train themselves. I'm not sure how many months ago, Katrina might know better, but a resident of District 4 in the Highland neighborhood recently had a complaint called on him, got it taken care of, all said and done, and then another inspector came along and said, nope, got him on the same thing, and he ended up having to pay a fine. There's inconsistency with the inspectors. They all need to be on the same page. There needs to be clarification about the repeat offender law. It lacks clarity in terms of when properties are habitable or not, and that's part of what's keeping cases from going forward. They have software that doesn't work, they need money for that, and they need enforcement.